I think it's so important when we're on our spiritual journey to know that once we experience something and gain awareness, it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen again and that we're not going to have emotions and reactions and triggers. We're going to. That is a part of being human. I want to just bring some light to that today of the experience that I've had in this area and what I do when I am feeling like I've made zero progress and maybe even gone backwards a little bit. Welcome if this is your first time here. My name is Amy. Welcome back if you've been here before. Thank you for being here with me. It really means so much. I love seeing familiar faces and comments. I'm just really excited that we are building this little community together. On my channel, I'm talking all things spirituality and the experiences that we have as human beings as we go through that here and everything that it entails, from our egos to aligning and connecting more to our spiritual gifts and just all of that. So if you're into that, you are in the right place. I think one of the biggest misconceptions around spiritual growth is that you can never do something incorrectly. Like once you have an experience with something, you can't do it again. Otherwise, you have somehow tarnished your spiritual growth. And listen, I have been in that place and I have certainly felt that way, but I just want to share with you that in my experience, that is not true. That's just not how it works. In fact, I believe and have experienced that the journey is progressive. As we are going in this cycle, whether you think it's going up or down or sideways or whatever direction, we are going to find ourselves coming back and seeing experiences and lessons and opportunities that we've already experienced before. This is an opportunity for us to take that step back, to be the observer in the situation and recognize, oh, I've been here before. How did I approach this last time? Did I like my behavior? Did I like how I responded? Here I find myself again, and I get to make a different decision if I want to, or I get to repeat what I did because that was a really good approach for me. It is through this. It is like this cycle brings us deeper and deeper into ourselves. And by doing that is how we're actually stripping away the layers. So even if you find yourself coming back to an experience and this time you are more triggered than you've been in a really long time, or your emotions have a major flare up or whatever it is that just really doesn't feel good, you're not doing anything wrong. There are so many factors that play into how we respond and how we feel about things. And the season you're in can play such a role, how you're feeling, where your health is, all of these things. So naturally, there will be times when you think, oh my gosh, why do I feel like I just went 10 steps backwards? Even just having awareness to that is part of your spiritual growth. That is so important. Spiritual growth for me is becoming more conscious of myself, being able to observe and separate myself from my ego. It's our egos that tell us that we have to do things perfectly. This idea of once you figure it out once, then you always have to do it right or better. And it's our egos that will actually make us appear like we've got it all together. It is through our consciousness, through our humility and our higher selves and perspective that we're able to observe ourselves as humans having this journey and realizing that all of these experiences are an opportunity for us to learn and to strip away the human conditioning, the limiting beliefs, the judgments, all of these things, so that we can connect more to who we are at our absolute deepest parts of us. And I call that my higher self. That is where my intuition speaks from me. When I find myself like, wow, I am having a very big response to this situation. I'm not feeling very good about it, and that's making me feel even worse now. There's this phrase I heard once that if it's hysterical, it's historical. And that means that when we feel these emotions and triggers that come up and that are intense and that just really go from 0 to 100, it's historic. This is something you have been experiencing throughout your life. this is most likely your inner child still having this reaction, still having this response. And so by being able to observe it, you take this step back, and that can take a minute. You're not going to be able to just do that in the midst of feeling really intense about something. When you can get to a place where you can decompress, remove yourself from the situation and from whatever it is, the environment that is feeling really overstimulating for you, take that step back and actually observe. And the way I see it is, it's like my adult self is able to observe the inner child part of me having a very deeply rooted reaction to a situation that I've experienced over and over and over. I can't change how anybody else is responding or showing up, but I can change how I'm responding. And so when I am able to observe it and see it from a more mature, emotionally balanced part of me, I can see that the part of me responding is my inner child. It is the part of me that still doesn't feel safe, doesn't feel protected, doesn't feel like I have an authority figure who is going to be able to help guide me through the experience. I had an experience like this recently, of course, and I was feeling so good, and it felt like it just came out of nowhere. Although as it started happening, it was immediate that I could feel it. My response to a situation, it really affected me deeply. And it affected me a lot because I thought, I'm so conscious, like I can see what's going on, but why am I still feeling this way? And so I spent some time decompressing, taking care of myself for a multitude of other reasons. And I was able to come to this space when I did decompress and was able to detach from the energy of it, the emotional charge of it, to be able to see it, to see myself, to see the other person, to recognize that my learned reaction had come up again. And the reason it came up again is because I haven't had this experience in a really long time. And so it's been a long time since I've gotten to the place of where I'm at now to be able to navigate it from a place that is more mature and balanced. It's not about me having the emotions or not. It's about me being able to get to that place of taking care of myself, nurturing that part of me that is totally overwhelmed, and then being able to see it from this observational standpoint without emotions involved, without the energy of the other person, and being able to actually say, oh, I see this. Okay, yeah, of course I'm feeling this way, but this is no longer the truth. This is no longer my truth, and I don't need to respond this way. And really being able to break it down and see what a healthy way would be for me to actually respond. And one of the things that's so important for me to talk about here too is that as much as I am sharing experiences I've had and wisdoms that I've gained, I am still having my own experiences that feel really hard sometimes. It's not about if we feel hard emotions or not, or have responses, or feel triggered at times. It's not about that. It's how we respond to these situations. And in time, as we find ourselves cycling back to them, eventually that emotional response does soften. And eventually it might go away completely. But it's going to be really hard for it to be gone if you haven't actually experienced it from a place that is more mature and balanced. So honestly, I would say that the first bit of advice that I even had to work through myself is that the first thing I needed to do was to remove myself from the environment that felt so overstimulating for me. And initially I couldn't just leave in that exact moment, but it was really becoming conscious and aware and bringing in an affirmation to calm myself, because that's as much as I could do in that moment. And from there, as the days unfolded and the emotions felt really strong still, because I was aware that there was something I needed to look at and understand more, I was able to remove myself completely and actually take care of myself, which looked like not answering my phone to anybody, because to me that can be very stimulating. It was not talking about it with other people any more than I actually needed to. There were a couple conversations, but knowing, okay, this is where I draw the boundary. I don't need to talk about it anymore. If I keep talking about this, it's actually adding to it now. And getting the right amount of sleep, eating really healthy food. These things are the things that we usually will just dismiss and put off. But for me, this is actually what helps to calm me again, to find these very healthy self-care routines that I really needed when I was a child, but wasn't getting. But I've learned now as an adult how to do that. And then when I'm feeling in a place of balance and not so charged by it, I can actually recognize how to now navigate it. And sometimes it means more communication. Sometimes it means less. But what matters here, and the whole point of why I'm bringing this up, is that I think so many of us are in these environments, or what we see or who we follow, where there's this idea and expectation that we're not allowed to have uncomfortable and hard feelings once we start on this spiritual journey. And that has really gotten me caught up a lot. And the people who throw out that energy actually cause me to feel like I'm contracting more when I'm around them. That's something else I've had to learn, is just recognizing when maybe engaging with somebody the way I once did is no longer the thing that is going to help me along my own path. And that's okay. So much of our spiritual journey and learning more about ourselves and becoming more self-aware is actually seeing those things that don't feel that good to us, that need a boundary, especially when it comes to relationships with other people, and being able to maintain that relationship, but do so in a way that just feels so much healthier for you. That's okay. It's all in how we deliver our needs. It's how we are actually communicating it, and can we do it from a place of love and gentleness, and it not feeling like it's about the other person, because it isn't. It's always about us. And the more that we learn that, the more our relationships with others and ourselves begin to soften and feel so much healthier. And one of the most amazing things that I've experienced in my journey of really looking at me and taking responsibility for my behavior, which has led me to so much of my self-awareness, is that people are so receptive to how you're showing up. And not because you're saying anything differently, but it's your behavior that starts to change. And yes, of course, there are going to be some people who just don't want anything to do with it. But for the most part, people are so receptive. And actually, you might find them starting to open and soften to you even more as well, which is how I realized that so much of what I thought was somebody else doing something was actually me. So listen, wherever you're at today, if you are having a really hard time, just remember that you haven't done anything wrong. You're not backtracking. As long as you're showing up and finding that humility and that self-awareness and taking responsibility and knowing when to remove yourself from situations that are triggering you and waiting until you can find some peace and balance in yourself, you're doing what you need to do. There is no right or wrong. This is a journey. Nothing leads to perfection. That's not what this is about. It's about us having this journey and experiencing life as a spiritual being, having this human experience and being able to navigate that as much as possible from a place of consciousness and love. I would love to hear from you. Let me know where you're at, any comments or questions you might have about this topic. And if you're finding yourself in a situation with someone that's just consistently making you feel bad, you don't have to force yourself into maintaining that relationship exactly how it's been, if that's how you're feeling because of it. Thank you so much for being here with me. I certainly hope that you will consider subscribing, giving me a thumbs up, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.